Hello guys, so welcome to my new video. I hope everyone's staying safe, everyone's being safe at these crazy times. And basically in the last couple of days I've been doing a lot of the vision or horrific vision videos on healer specs. If you watch my YouTube channel or if you track my YouTube channel, you can see that there are a lot of the uploads in terms of 5 mask runs for Resto Druid, for Resto Shaman, for Holy Paladin. I didn't manage to get a 5 mask run on Mistweaver because I was being really silly and I missed or I didn't unlock all of the masks, so I have to do it this week. But basically I've been playing visions a lot because again corruption is insane, and I decided to do a bit of a meme video and rank the healing specs that I feel are performing really strong in horrific visions. So if you're unaware of the fact that if you do horrific vision solo as a healer spec, the HP of the mobs is reduced drastically, and for certain specs it's kind of really good to go as a healer because some of the healers provide insane amount of damage, some of the healers have insane amount of utility. And basically when ranking healers, you have to keep in mind, I did a lot of the healers with 5 mask. My priest is the least geared healer and I only have attempted discipline. I have not found anything or any videos or anything like that in terms of 5 mask runs as a holy priest. So any talk about a holy priest is going to be somewhat anecdotal because I haven't done it, I haven't seen people doing it. Discipline or disc seems to be very strong, so keep this in mind. And first of all, when I'm doing the ranking, another disclaimer: every healer is fully capable of doing 5 mask runs. Few healing specs might take it longer, some of them might not have the exact utility, but the ranking is mainly going to be based on some of the utility of healers, because there is only a couple of things that can really end your 5 mask run or your vision run as a healer, and mainly it's the bosses. Rexar is really annoying. In Orgrimmar you can kind of play it safe and basically kill the boars and fish for your Titan procs. Things like certain affixes like Leaden Foot or Split Personality. Again, for Split Personality, no healer has really direct utility to deal with it, except for a couple of ones that I talk about it. But for Leaden Foot, there is definitely healers that are stronger with this affix than others. And also the fact that the last boss in Stormwind Orgrimmar is insanely bad for melee. On top of the fact that majority of healers don't have an interrupt and you can't LOS the polymorph cast, you will always get polymorphed as certain healing classes, and Orgrimmar can honestly be a run ender for certain healing specs. But first of all, let's talk about my number 1 rank, the best healer I feel to do solo horrific visions by quite a bit, and it's not because of the damage, but it's also because of the utility, and that is Holy Paladin. Surprise. Holy Paladin is best at something else in this expansion. And again, it's not only because of their on-demand DPS due to their cooldowns, short cooldowns, Holy Avenger and Wings. You can provide probably the most DPS out in the game when you have those cooldowns, not only for AoE with Consecrate, but also single target. And on top of the fact that for majority of the rankings or the healer rankings, I've used Crucible of Flame for priority single target DPS, and I use Forbidden Obsidian Claw for that exact same reason as well. So keep in mind that these items do provide a lot of single targets. So Holy Paladin, not only it is one of the strongest because of the damage it provides, it's very strong. It can deal with Leaden Foot by using Blessing of Freedom, which is very strong. But the main reason it is top, it's because of Bubble. Bubble is probably the best single spell in the game to deal with horrific visions. Not only it prevents all of the sanity effects from draining while you're in the bubble, you're also able to DPS. So all of a sudden, every single healer when approaching Orgrimmar and Rexar, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna have to play for the Titan proc, I'm gonna have to take it easy, I'm gonna do this, I'm not sure how I'm gonna approach this. Holy Paladin just goes in, bubbles, pops cooldowns, dead. There is no thought whatsoever when you play Holy Paladin, especially when you're about to die, let's say because of Split Personality, you walked into something, bubble, use it. Especially with Unbreakable Spirit Talent, which reduces the cooldown to bubble to 3 minutes, means that you can basically use it in every single district of Orgrimmar or Stormwind or whatever you do. So you have one way of escaping death or big huge sanity drain, and this is why Holy Paladin is number 1 and one of the safest healers to do horrific visions. Now let's go on to the second healer, and honestly I could have placed the multiple healing specs here, but I chose to place Restoration Druid because of certain abilities that allow you to deal with affixes. Resto Druid, in terms of the playstyle, if you can get Sunfire traits, as many as you can, and just basically apply Sunfire and run away, you can actually do insanely large clears with it. Of course, there's going to be priority mobs that need to be DPS. You have Crucible for that, and you can go into kitty form if you want to apply more DPS as well. The fact the Resto Druid has abilities that can count towards melee and ranged really make it strong because Illyria is not great for melee, but you can just Sunfire it down, use the trinkets, use the crucibles and things like that. But the reason why I placed Resto Druid second over the third best healer, which we'll talk about later on, is because it can deal with Leaden Foot insanely well. It can shift into forms in and out of it, reducing or removing the current stack of your Leaden Foot, which is insane. Probably one of the strongest abilities or one of the best ways of removing it, because other classes have to use, like, for example, maybe Mistweaver will use Tiger's Lust on them, or maybe, for example, Holy Paladin will use Blessing of Freedom. They have a cooldown attached to it. Resto Druids shifting forms into Cat do not have a cooldown, or it's like a global cooldown. So it's insanely strong. And also on top of the fact that Polymorph is very, very prevalent in Stormwind with the Mage Quarter boss, and also Illyria will do a Polymorph which you can't LOS. Resto Druid can shift to Cat form and they won't be polymorphed. This is the main reason why I'm adding Resto Druid as the second best healer solo spec in Horrific Visions, because of the utility, because of the damage. Sunfire is really, really strong. And again, on top of the fact you have stealth, which you can bypass a lot of the mobs, but it doesn't really play a big factor because right now a lot of people are going to be doing a full clear of visions in order to get the most corrupted mementos. So stealth is great, but at the moment it might not be as used as before because people are trying to get maximum corrupted mementos. Now the third best healer, and there is a disclaimer, I haven't done a 5-mask run with this healer, it's Discipline Priest. I've heard and I've talked to people who have done 5-mask runs with Discipline, and it seems to be very, very strong, not only because of its high single target priority with Schism, makes it very, very good for a lot of the boss fights, it's a short cooldown and things like that, but also because you'll probably be putting your dots, your Shadow World Pain on everybody, on anybody you can see, and because of the Purge, the Wicked talent, it makes it very, very strong. And if you have Azerite traits like Death Throws, which you probably should as a Discipline Priest, especially doing Mythic Plus content, all of a sudden your AoE becomes really, really strong. You still have Holy Nova if you want to deal with the small ads, but generally speaking, Discipline Priest is very, very solid DPS. And again, like I mentioned, priority single target is very, very strong when dealing with certain boss. Being ranged is a big direct advantage when fighting Stormwind Illyria boss. And especially because you have dots to apply on Illyria, even if you get polymorphed, the dots will tick down, and hopefully eventually get a kill. So the reason why Discipline Priests are placed in this position right now, because I feel when you compare the utility of Resto Druid and Holy Paladin, they don't have the same massive game breaking abilities that other healers have, but their DPS is very, 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 very solid. So that's why I placed them in this position right now. If we look at the number 4, this is the healer that I feel is very, very safe but very, very slow, and that is Restoration Shaman. Now Shaman is extremely strong in terms of single target DPS if you have Igneous Potential, especially if you have 3 of them. Igneous Potential makes your Lava Burst insanely strong. You can apply Flame Shocks. The problem with Resto Shaman is that it's just so slow. You can only really reliably apply Flame Shock on 3 mobs at a time. Your Chain Lightning affects a total of 3 members. So all of a sudden, if you do large pulls, you might be, or there's no reason for you to do large pulls. So the fact is, I feel that Resto Shaman feels extremely slow in Stormwind because as any other healers or all the other healers are able to do Dwarven District and pull everything there and just AoE because they don't have capped AoE. The same with Trade District. You can pull everything. There is no dangerous mobs there. There isn't something that's going to stun you or whatever. You just pull and do your AoE. And you can do those in like 30 seconds or so. As the Resto Shaman, you can't really do that. Even if you have Earth Elemental, it'll tank the mobs for you, but the damage that you can output is capped, which feels very, very, very slow. In Orgrimmar, I don't feel it's that bad because there's not that many large pulls in Orgrimmar in general. Like if you look at the Valley of Wisdom, probably you can do a big pull there. But that's about it if you really think about it, because there's a lot of mobs that are quite dangerous. There's not a big trash pack that you want to do in Orgrimmar, so Resto Shaman is definitely going to feel safer there. But in terms of viability, should you do this Resto Shaman, it is very, very safe because the single target damage is insane. Like I mentioned, Igneous Potential is really, really, really strong. And again, being ranged in Illyria in Stormwind is a big advantage as a healer. So slow but safe, and you can definitely do a 5-mask run, but it might take you a little bit longer than other healers. And the number 5 position is going to be Mistweaver Monk. Now, I definitely feel you can really do fast and good Horrific Visions with Mistweaver Monk, and it has certain utility. You know, your Ring of Peace is very strong. You have Tiger's Lust if you want to get out, or Leaden Foot and things like that. You do have, like, you know, defensives if you fall into trouble. Your single target damage might not be great, but you can spec Crucible. The fact is, you can spec Way of the Crane for the big trash AoE pulls, like I mentioned in Stormwind, in Trade District, or Dwarven District. And then when you are attacking or about to do a boss, you can swap your talents or swap your essence and go into Crucible of Flame for the additional single target, because I feel Mistweaver does lack a bit of single target if you're not spec'd into the right Azeroth traits. But the general consensus I felt with Mistweaver is that overall they really lacked certain utility when dealing with certain bosses, and mainly it's Stormwind. I have to mention this. Illyria is a Mistweaver killer in my opinion. The fact is that Mistweaver is the only healer that doesn't really have a dot capabilities. Don't get me wrong, you can spec into Sunrise Technique, Azeroth trait, which still feels very, very weak, and your Rising Sun Kick is going to leave a dot. That dot really accounted for very little when I was testing, but generally speaking, if you're approaching Illyria, you can't avoid the polymorph. You can get chained into the chain pole. There might be some mobs, or there might be purples that you need to get. Also, you might dip below 50% sanity, and new mob is gonna spawn because of the mask abilities. That mob is going to spawn swirlies on the ground, and you can get a really bad chain. Other healers will have to deal with it as well, but other healers will have dots ticking down at all times. Mistweaver can only really have Crucible of Flame and Obsidian Claw or Forbidden Obsidian Claw trinket, so I feel you have to be very, very, very safe. I forgot to mention, Resto Shaman also has an interrupt, and they'll never be polymorphed. So there are other healers that can apply dots and avoid polymorph ability on Illyria, while Mistweaver will have a really rough time. And that's the main reason why I place Mistweavers in this position. I just feel they really, really suffer from the last boss in Stormwind. Everything else is very, very doable if you play it safe. Your spinning crane kick is going to do a good amount of damage. It's uncapped. Overall, I mentioned, they really lack the capabilities for one boss, and they can really end the run there, and that's the reason why I placed them here. And the last healer, again, I don't really want to talk about this. Holy Priest, I don't think I'm going to place him in this position because I haven't played with them. I haven't done a Horrific Vision as a Holy Priest. I haven't seen videos with Holy Priest doing 5 mask runs on Horrific Vision, so I really don't know. Like, the fact is, Holy Nova is a big part of AoE DPS. Holy Priest does have a stun on, so much stun of a demand with Holy World Chastise and things like that, and you do have a dot with Holy Fire and things like that, so I do feel it's very manageable to do a Holy Priest Vision run, but no one really does it because you can just swap to Discipline Priest, and Discipline Priest just feels a lot better. So I'm gonna put a question mark on Holy Priest. I'd love to hear your opinions if you're a priest that does Horrific Vision, so who's done a 5 mask run as a Discipline and maybe attempted it as a Holy. How do you feel about them? Because I feel Holy Priest is still going to be somewhere down the bottom because the lack of DPS and things like that. I feel Discipline is still going to be a lot better choice, but you can prove me wrong. This is just my anecdotal opinions about a spec that I haven't played in Horrific Visions yet. So overall, this was a bit of a meme video just talking about some of my experiences. I've attempted a lot of Horrific Visions on 5 masks, and I really enjoy doing Horrific Visions on healer specs as solo. There are certain specs I enjoy more than others, and I think my ranking kind of indicates which ones I enjoy more because of the safety and utility reasons. But guys, I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe in this crazy, crazy time. And I would like to start showing some of my appreciation towards the Patreons that have helped the channel grow and really have helped me in the past and right now. And basically, I'm going to start off with some of the highest or the biggest patrons in the last couple of years, in the last months. And the most recent Patreon and the highest tier, Leroy, Zizili, who's been there for a while, Clubber, who's been here for a long, long time as well. I really appreciate your help, and every single Patreon. I really, really thank you for everything, allowing me to continue doing these videos. I appreciate it, guys, and I'll see you in my next video.